Hey everyone, it's Jay from Boulder Creek Railroad. In this video, we're going to be going over making a Hon3 model railroad. Recently, I've been nearing the end of the completion of my N-scale railroad, and I didn't really know exactly what to do in the hobby after completing the railroad. But I've always been fascinated by narrow gauge equipment, and every live steam engine I've ever seen in my life has been a narrow gauge steam engine. So I decided to go ahead and make an Hon3 railroad, something small that could be stored maybe underneath a bed or in a closet, something I could use to continue to run trains and be creative and continue to make models. And so this video is just going to go over the process of making my Hon3 railroad. So I hope you enjoy, and happy railroading. So here's our completed base. It's 43 by 42 inches, made out of spare wood. So we got some plywood here. I had some spare plywood and some spare just basic pieces of strip wood that I used to kind of connect all the pieces of plywood together. And now we need to add in our scenery base. And for our scenery base, I'm going to be using this stuff over here. This is floral foam, and it's basically just a really thick styrofoam product. It's actually really hard. It's almost like a rock, and it's really easy to carve this stuff. It's kind of like the pink stuff, although the pink stuff is a lot smoother than this stuff. As you can see, there's a lot of holes and stuff in this. So we're going to use some plaster to cover up those holes, and we're just going to cover the top of this layout with this. Now, this is 2 inches thick because I am planning on adding in a little bit of a wash on the railroad with a little bit of a trestle for the train to go over. So that's why we have a little bit of a thicker foam here. But this should be added quite a bit of visual interest and hopefully allow us to do a lot of easy carving for this layout. To glue our foam down to our base, we're going to simply use a hot glue gun. I'm just going to use this low temp one here, add in a couple beads on the foam and then push it down on there. And then we'll add in some weight to the top of these foam blocks to keep them in place while the glue dries. So that I have the larger blocks laid out and glued in, see I have these gaps here. I have some extra foam here. We're going to cut it, but I'm going to use this hot wire knife over here. This is going to slice through this foam really quickly. So we'll use that just to kind of cut the pieces out and fit them in place. All of our foam has now been glued down and is dried to our board here. You might notice a little bit of some crevices and cracks between the sheets of foam. And that's okay to have because it's going to be covered up with plaster later when we start doing our carving and when we're ready to start getting that base coat down of plaster. So the next step is to go ahead and take our track pieces, and we're going to trace out the radius of our track again onto here. That way we can get ready to place down our roadbed, and that's going to come before plastering. That way our roadbed has a nice flat surface that it's on. So I have my circle of track laid out. Now this is HO scale Bachmann Easy Track, and I'm just using it as just a base for my radius. So when I draw my circle on here, I know exactly the perfect radius to lay down my roadbed at. Now, one thing I forgot to mention was this little blank square here where I don't have any foam, and that's on purpose there because what I'm going to end up doing is I'm going to put my controller there and I'm going to glue it down. That way I have a controller constantly connected up to this layout that all I have to do is simply plug it into the wall, and I don't have to grab out a controller and get all the wiring set up. I can just kind of connect it into here and keep it in place. And it should be recessed enough into this foam here that you're not even going to really notice it. You can see it's very faint, but I now have my line laid out for the circle of my track. And I traced the outside edge of this easy track. The reason why is because I'm going to use that as my center line for my track. That way my track's a little bit wider than the 18-inch radius curves that the Bachmann Easy Track are, because I am running Hon3 equipment, and some of those brass engines really don't like tight curves. So we're going to give it an 18 plus inch radius. I think it's about maybe 18.5, maybe 19-inch radius curve here. And that should help those brass engines negotiate these curves well and not have any problems. So next step is to lay down our roadbed. Now what I'm using for roadbed here is this Woodland Scenics foam roadbed for N-scale. Since I'm modeling Hon3 track uses N-scale roadbed because it's closer to N-scale size track than HO scale size track. So I personally am not a big fan of this foam stuff, to be honest. I prefer cork, but This is all my local hobby shop had at the moment, so we're just going to use this for the project. It's not going to impact it too much. So we're just going to go ahead, we're going to split this down the middle and take a hobby knife on that line there, or that crease there. We're going to cut this in half, and then we're going to lay down our road bed, and we're going to glue it down with white Elmer's glue, and that should hold this in place. And I have some track nails that I'll use to hold this road bed in place while we do that. So we're going to start this section by taking one of these track nails here, taking down our road bed, placing it down, and then we're going to take a spike, and we're just going to push it into place. And that'll hold that in place as we go around. And basically every couple of inches as we start to curve it, we'll place one of these in here, and that'll hold it in place. And we'll do the exact same thing for the other side. So now I have everything track nailed down. You can see I have the nails in this section here. So the next step is to take white glue, and we're going to glue underneath these sections. And then once it's all dry, we can pull these track nails out. Now, I did have a little bit of a problem over here. These two pieces of foam were not lining up. And now I have this really noticeable dip in my track work, which is not good. But I was already planning on adding a small little wash with a little wooden trestle over it. So instead of just trying to level this all out and fix it, we're just going to go ahead and add that trestle bridge in here. Now, I'm simply not going to glue the track in this section. The road bed down in this section here, and then we're just gonna when I'm ready to start carving, I'll go ahead and we'll cut this out, and then we'll add in that trestle piece that I have built out for this section already. But for now, we're just gonna skip gluing this little section of track here where this little blue square is there on the corners, and then we'll move on. So it is now a day later. Our glue has dried and the track has finally arrived. So I've gone ahead and I've taken out all my pins that were holding this stuff in place, and this road bed is not going anywhere. It is stuck in place, which is exactly what we want. And now that our track has arrived, we can talk about this. So this is standard Hon3 flex track from Pecco. It's code 70. I chose to go with code 70 because I honestly didn't really know what equipment I was going to end up purchasing in the future. I already have a brass engine and a Blackstone engine. I have a plethora of rolling stock with different types of trucks and wheel sets. And knowing N scale and how different trains have different flange depths, I just decided to go with the largest code or size of rail just in case, rather than going small and realizing I have to replace everything. So I just went ahead with this. So we're going to go ahead and lay out our track, and we'll also put it in our code 70 rail joiners, and I'll solder up our feeder wires to this track. Alright, so we now have our track in place. This has been glued together, and it took roughly about 4 pieces of flex track, give or take, to make this circle here. So each joint here had a rail joiner put in, and then we soldered it together. And I have one of these that doesn't have a solder joint with an expansion cap, as this track will expand and contract in the cold and heat. And then right here, next to where we're going to keep our controller, I have a set here of terminal rail joiners that I soldered together, and this supplies power to the whole route. So let's go ahead and start running some trains. So I've also gone ahead and glued together and cut out the section for a bridge. I want to just make sure that I had this all flat, so my track was level. So I just went ahead and did that while we glued our track down. And so all these bents and bridge supports here are in place, and I'm putting another bent here at the center. So we're working on that right now. It's gluing together, and I'll add in another bend so it looks a little better here. So our next step here is to go ahead and carve out all of our foam. So I'm going to start here with this bridge section where this wash is going to go. We're just going to kind of carve out this general area here, and I'll just kind of move around the layout, adding in bits of foam, carving it away. It's kind of creating some hills and valleys in different sections for the layout. The best part about this green foam is that it's really easy to carve. You literally just kind of take a knife and there you go. Just kind of take chunks out as you go here. Just kind of go ahead and something like that, and add in a little bit of some variation, and there you go. So I have brought the layout back upstairs and we have finished our carving. So to start here, we have our little trestle section. As you can see here, we're going to add in those bents underneath here, probably maybe 1 or 2 bents, just to kind of fill that out a little bit here. And this little thing goes all the way back up to there. So we got a pretty decent wash here. Add in a little bit of some hills here. I added some here in the back where our controller is going to go. And I added in this little raised section over here, and as well as over here. So you can kind of see the train goes through some pretty rough terrain here, which is nice. And I've left some blank spaces for here and for right there for a station or water tower structure. And so at some point, if I decide to add that in, I think the water tower for sure is going to go here. But as for another building or station structure, whatever is going to go over there, I'm not really sure yet. The other thing I'm going to mention is I redid my track work a little bit here. I was not happy with the results that I got, and I'll show you here. This is a section of the original flex track here, and you can see that kink, how it just kinks there. It's not like a smooth transition, and this was supposed to be a curved piece of track here, and it's completely flat. So when my K27 ran over these sections, it would derail every single time because it's essentially just hitting a kink and not functioning right. So I went back, I used the spare piece of flex track I had left, I'll find a joint here, and I've gone ahead and I fixed these sections here. They're not kinked anymore. They're a lot more smooth. Got this one over here. You can see that they are a lot more smooth. They look a lot better, and they have no issues derailing at all. So that's good. So our next step is to go ahead and add in our base coat, our sealer coat to all of this foam. To give our layer a base coat, we're going to use some of this drywall joint compound that I have here, and we're just going to spread it out over the top of this, and then that will wait for it to dry, and then we'll go ahead and we'll start adding in scenery like dirt and scenic foams. We now have all of our plaster down, so we now have this nice, relatively filled in surface here. So we can now start applying dirt and scenic foam to the layout. I'm using actual dirt, just going to take a cup, sift it out, and put it over the top. And I have a couple other different colors of rocks and things that will go inside the wash and areas around. And I'm going to use static grass to get some of that grassy cover. So we've placed down our first layer of dirt here, and it's currently drying. But while it's drying, we can go ahead and take some of these bags of rocks and other colors of dirt and gravel, and we're just going to kind of use that this spoon here. We're just going to kind of spread it out all over in just various areas on here. We're going to fill in that wash that we have going here, and make it look a little bit more like a wash with rocks and debris and stuff, and then we'll add some scenic foams after that. So I got all the dirt down. I've even started to apply static grass and bushes to some of these areas here. You can kind of see that here. Got a pretty interesting looking area around here. And area here for our water tower. And I'm keeping this area undone right here where this boxcar is, because I don't know if I want to put a station structure or some sort of building there, because it's the only other perfectly flat space on the layout other than this spot here. So I'm just kind of going around. You can see here I'm still gluing stuff and getting it set up here, but we're creating a pretty decent looking area here. And just for static grass, I'm using some of this Craft Bond Elmer's glue. It's kind of more of a stickier and tacky glue. And I'm just kind of putting some down, using a brush to kind of tap it out, and then putting static grass on top of that. And I'm using that exact same adhesive to glue these bushes into place here. So just going to keep working, and we shall see where this takes us. Well, I think we've made some serious progress here. In fact, we're done. So I have finished doing all of our scenery for this area. The static grass is all down. Our ballast is down, the washer and everything is all glued. Our track is running good, our engine and our rolling stock is on here, and we are ready to take our first test run around the completed layout. So yeah, let's go ahead and run some trains. So there we have it, the completed layout. And yeah, it's really good. It looks like Colorado. The trains look like they are in really good space here. Our wash looks good. These areas here look like the raised sections on the narrow gauge branches. And our trestle over here is also looking very nice. So overall, yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. And this project was really fun. I'm glad I got to do it. I hit all my requirements that I wanted to hit, with it being small, lightweight, easy to move around, and it still looks really, really, really good. So I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Thanks for watching, and happy railroading.